Welcome to Idea Tennis, where we challenge ideas, elevate thinking, and serve up conversation that make you question everything.
But at the end of the day, the thing that they are leaving out of this equation
Mhm.
is people, community, finding the right people that go from the people to your raving fans. Those are the people that are going to buy what you're selling. Those are the people who are going to share what you're doing with other people. And it's how you're able to create that, okay, your base for can I tell it or can I sell it? That's the missing link. You need the people. It requires failure. And failure doesn't mean that you're a loser. Failure doesn't mean that it's time for you to quit. Failure is the opportunity to grow, to learn, to do better, be better. And it's the belief that you have that quietly tells you in the depths of your heart that you are connecting with people, which is the most valuable thing that you have to offer. Not your program, not your service, not your product. That connection with people, because that is what's going to give you that sustainable business. Community, it's not a marketing strategy. It's proof of concept. It's proof that what you are working on, what you are offering has value. You know, if you can't tell it to anyone, you cannot sell it to anyone. Because yeah, people like to buy, but no one likes to be sold. People want to see your lifestyle, your brand. People want to see that you're living what you're preaching.
Jess. Welcome back to this another conversation. And today you get to join us when we talk about value. Today's conversation will center on value and a lot of different ways of looking at value. And the way I look at value, Jess, is what I call is the what is your IT? What is the big it? That whatever that it thing for you, everybody got their own it, their own IT, whatever the big IT is. And the reason why this kind of showed up for me, I was having my neighborhood walk because I walk my block, the neighborhood every day. I get off once between my calls, I go walk around the neighborhood, and then thought shows up. Great thought shows up. And the thought that showed up this week was do you have somebody to tell your story to, sell your story, to tell your product to, this to share your product with? But the idea about what is that thing you have to share with other people? And if you don't have anybody to tell it to or sell it to, then you're not in business really. So I share the idea with you, and you had better ideas around this. I would love to hear your thoughts on the value of your IT.
It's something that most entrepreneurs skip over in the process of building something, whether they are offering a service or trying to sell a product or working on a brand or a program. It's the reason why so many people feel overwhelmed, feel like they're going nowhere fast, feel like they're creating in a vacuum, that nobody's seeing what they're doing, nobody's buying it. And then they start to wonder, like, is it even worth doing? Is it worth building? Is it worth creating? Is it worth offering? But at the end of the day, the thing that they are leaving out of this equation
Mm-hmm.
is people,
Mm-hmm.
community, finding people that go from the people to your raving fans. Those are the people that are going to buy what you're selling. Those are the people who are going to share what you're doing with other people. And it's how you're able to create that, okay, your base for can I tell it or can I sell it? That's the missing link. You need the people.
I agree. So when I left the military, by the way, for the folks that follow this podcast deeply, when I left the military, the people I used to tell stuff to wasn't the people I can tell stuff to anymore. And without those people to tell you stuff to, you feel like you're alone. Like, bro, where I don't know nobody to tell it to. Whatever my it is, my new it was entrepreneur stuff. My old it was military stuff. We can talk about military all the time. But my new it, they didn't understand. My old community wouldn't get really. So then I felt like, oh, I ain't got nobody to tell it. I ain't got nobody to tell it to. Damn sure ain't got nobody to sell it to. So now, how do you navigate that space when you started off your journey as far as being an entrepreneur? Because I know you came from the HR community. So when you
Yeah.
left the HR community, you had a different it. But when you start the entrepreneur community, it's a new it. And how do you find your people to tell that to share that value with? Because if you don't have anybody to share the value with, you don't think the thing you create have any value
Yeah, because
because
the
nobody's
best
listening.
ideas could feel invisible if you don't
Hmm.
have people to share it with, people to exchange your ideas with, people that see value in what you're creating. It was a process. And that's the thing that a lot of people also skip is okay, they forget about the people that they're trying to serve, the people that
Hmm.
they need to buy it and to tell it to. And then they kind of skip the part of the process of finding those people. You know, when I was first starting my entrepreneurial journey, I had never been my own boss. I had never had my own thing. I was an employee. And in a lot of ways, I had that employee mindset. People in the HR world listened to what I had to say because I had a lot of experience. And they saw and felt that what I was doing in that world was valuable. But then I stepped out into my own. I had that prior experience, but that wasn't what I was trying to sell to people. I
Hmm.
now needed to reframe who I was to the world because people see you as one thing generally.
Hmm.
They saw you, I'm sure, for many, many years as the veteran, the military guy. And so, how do you change that narrative for the world to see you in a different light? That's the hard part. Getting people to see who you are now, today, and who you are becoming rather than who you were or who you used to be. And so I had to start from the bottom like everyone else.
We're gonna bring that Drake song and start it from the bottom. No,
Yeah.
but that start, I guess the birth of the newborn, the
Mhm.
new baby, the baby Jess, the baby Asher in the new entrepreneurial space, it was painful because I'm crying out, I'm crying to everybody, nobody's listening. Like, what are you crying about, Asher? Like, this thing you're talking about, nobody cares about it because we don't see you as credibility in that space. And it was painful just trying to say what I'm trying to say to somebody that doesn't care about it. Like, bro, I want to talk about that stuff you're doing because, like, you're not even confident in it. You can't even speak the language. You're like a baby trying to speak. You don't know the language. And it was painful, my friend. It was painful. How painful was it for you?
It made me rethink everything. It made me feel almost like, what value am I creating for people if they don't see me as valuable in this
Hmm.
new light, in this new role that I am saying I am in? Especially because in the beginning, you have to prove yourself.
Hmm.
You have to work so hard to get out of your head and into your heart and like block out the naysayers, realize that what you have is valuable. You cannot give up and you have to focus on how do I serve and how do I solve. And that was hard when there was no roadmap for me to follow. There was no employee manual that was telling me how to get the job done. I had
Hmm.
to figure that out. I also had to figure out who were the people that I wanted to serve, who were the people that I wanted to add value to, because not all people are your people or my people. And so that was a journey. When I figured out that the people I wanted to help were the people who were a reflection of me when I first started,
Hmm.
things changed completely. I started without a brand. I started with a dream in my heart. I knew I wanted something. I couldn't figure out exactly how I was going to make it real. And then I had such a huge learning curve of all the things I needed to learn. Never mind technology and all those other actual tangible things, but all the intangible things that you have to learn of success requires failure. And failure doesn't mean that you're a loser. Failure doesn't mean that it's time for you to quit. Failure is the opportunity to grow, to learn, to do better, be better. And it's the belief that you have that quietly tells you in the depths of your heart that you are connecting with people, which is the most valuable thing that you have to offer. Not your program, not your service, not your product. That connection with people, because that is what's going to give you that sustainable business. That's what's going to give you clients and customers and long-term success. It's that connection with the right people.
Mm, you said it masterfully just now because you started off without a brand, and I'm gonna anchor this here because here's a parallel to new birth. As a baby, you didn't have a brand when you started off because nobody named you yet, and your name is your logo. But guess what? You don't have a brand because you don't have a story yet. You're just a baby. No story. You gotta build the story over time. So when I started off as an entrepreneur, I was a baby, no brand either, no name. I mean, I tried to create a name, but the name was I had to change the name a bunch of times, right? But I realized I had to educate myself into this new identity, and the education process was not easy. But I know I had to go commit to educate myself into this new identity, and by educate myself in the identity, I get more confidence. I feel like I am me. I understand me a little bit. Like this is Asher now. Like what is Asher? I am what I am. Until I was able to state it clearly. This is my logo. This is my brand. This is my story. And it was very difficult to convert old Asher's story to be useful to the new people I was going to serve and solve their problem. And that was a very difficult thing. So even folks right now, because I know there's a lot of change in the economy where like folks getting laid off, that means they gotta retool, reskill, they gotta start over, new identity, because old job says we no longer need your service. But now how do you serve new people? And the thing that you mentioned is finding the people. Like I think set goal and say pick your client, pick your future, pick your partner, pick your future, pick your customer, pick your future. So then you got to figure out who is the people you want to serve. Like specifically, once you understand them, then solving their problem become more easier. And if they're a version of you, then that becomes even more easier. That I solved my own problem before, I could solve it again for somebody that was in the same boat. But most of the time, we don't think that's the person we get to serve. How do you find how do you clarify that for yourself?
Because most of the time we focus in, we need more followers, right? We
Mm,
need more people to follow what we're doing, but you need the right people paying attention more than you need followers. Community, it's not a marketing strategy, it's proof of concept. It's proof that what you are working on, what you are offering has value. You know, if you can't tell it to anyone, you cannot sell it to anyone. When you think about, like, from an entrepreneurial perspective, people are looking for things, different
mm-hmm,
things. Who are you speaking to? And what is the message that you're putting out to those people? Is it resonating? Is it hitting home with them? Is it turning them from the people to your raving fans? When you think about like successful brands and businesses, Tesla, they had
mm,
a wait list. Apple had a cult. Like when Apple first came, it was like a cult, and still to today, iPhone versus Android.
mm-hmm,
Every great brand has and had at some point a base to start with. And that's what you need to focus on. Who are the people that you are looking to start with? They generally look and sound a lot like you at some point in your journey. And so it's being able to put yourself out there, transparent. If you've ever been on a coaching session with me or part of my community, you know that transparency is a big thing. Why? Because when you're transparent and people see your vulnerability and don't think and feel like you are the end all be all, know it all, it puts you on a different playing field. It allows them to see the old version of you and themselves so that they can see what's possible on how you arrive to where you are, which is where they want to be.
mm. So now I like what you say about they often look like you version of you. But if you have never, I will say never. I'm not going to get absolute here, but I'm saying if you haven't done the deep work of learning about you, like studying you, studying your past, then it's very difficult for you to point out the version of you that you're going to solve a problem for other people because the solution is you. only if you know who you are, only if you understand your journey, trials you've been through, and how you overcame them. For example, one of the biggest challenges I had with my military history is I felt like it was random. I felt like the things I've done to get here was random, even though it wasn't so random, but it felt random. And I thought about, if I can create deliberate steps into the future, then reverse engineering is easier because it's deliberate. Because if it's deliberate, I have a map, I have a plan, I can go back and look at the plan and say, this is the plan I used to get me here. So if a person asks you, how do you get here, Jess? Right? You can answer that question easy if you have the plan of how you did it. But I felt like my history when it comes to my military service was very random. I was doing whatever they asked me to do. And I didn't connect the dots. So now I gotta sit back and think about, what did I do to get here? That deliberate looking back reflection helps me create a system now to say, this is how I started to get here. And the system was clear to me now that I could say, hey, if you are a person I want to serve, then I know exactly what part of my system going to help solve your problem. But if it was random, it's very difficult. And I was in that random state, like my past feels random. I don't know what to tell you how I get here. But when I start doing setting project and goals and things like that, I start keeping track of how I'm doing it, and the map was clear to me to tell people, this is my system now.
Well, everyone who knows me knows I am super into logistics for everything in life, including business. And so I do document
Mm-hmm.
what works for me, what doesn't work for me. But for me personally, what I feel helped me build the right community was that I built in public.
Mm-hmm.
I allowed people to see my journey. And then I invited people into the journey with me because that creates loyalty, that creates community. I wasn't just looking for a one and done customer. I wasn't looking for people to sell to. If you look at my social platforms, I don't use my social platforms to really sell. Why? Because, yeah, people like to buy, but no one likes to be sold. People want to see your lifestyle, your brand. People want to see that you're living what you're preaching. People want to see that it's not just the biggest compliment I had one time from somebody was when they met me in person after having worked with me online for a really long time. After the pandemic and we met, she said to me, "Oh my God, you're the same in person as you are online." And I started to giggle. I was like, "Of course, why wouldn't I be?" She says, "Because most people aren't. Most people are putting on a performance, allowing people to see the best version of themselves instead of the most authentic version of themselves." And so for her, it was like a breath of fresh air to see that I was exactly who I was on her Zoom screen as I was in person. The only difference was I got to give her a hug. And so that is incredibly important when you're thinking about like how you're going to build a community. How are you going to get people to want to be a part of your it thing? You have to surround yourself with builders who talk to their audience, not just about their products.
Mm-hmm.
People could buy a product from anyone. They're not going to want to join just anyone on their journey. And the rooms that you sit in ultimately determine whether you think small or you think in ecosystems. I used to think small. I used to think about who could I have in my event, in my small conference room, or and then I realized, why was I limiting myself by that? Why couldn't I think bigger? Why? Because I didn't have people from the outside validating that I could do that. I had people that were telling me I was great in those small rooms. Well, guess what? Those small rooms were just the beginning. Those small rooms weren't the end all be all for me. And it was just getting started. And then I realized, why did I have to limit myself? that was like an eye opener of, I don't. And since when have I ever limited anything about me, whether it was my thinking or my mindset? And so raising my standard and letting it be known that I'm raising my standard and showing people that journey of speaking to a few people, to speaking to hundreds of people, to speaking to thousands of people, and what that looks like. And if I can do it, most certainly they could do it.
Let's go back to tell it to or sell it to. Because I think when it comes to value, if somebody not willing to write a check for the thing that you're trying to sell, doesn't feel like it's valuable.
Mm-mm.
If somebody is not trying to listen to the thing you're trying to tell them, you don't that don't feel like it's valuable. And I think the reason why maybe the system is built that way because like you need people, and if you're by yourself and you're thinking about your thing, you might feel like I'm in love with this idea, but then you go out there and trying to get the customer to buy it, they're not in love with it, but you fell in love with it, you think it's gonna be great, but you go out there and nobody cares. You're like, well, is this thing really valuable? So I think I heard Dan Sullivan say something one time. It says, make sure the customer or the client fall in love with the idea before you do.
Yes.
Also, make sure that you're sold on the idea first before you're trying to sell it to other people. But don't fall in love with it until somebody ready to buy a check, write a check for it. I was like, interesting. So we run into that same problem. We build this thing and it's really great backstage, go on front stage, nobody cares. It's not valuable. That doesn't mean you're not valuable. That just mean the idea right there in that moment is the wrong timing or the wrong audience. Because a lot of time it is just that the audience is wrong. And when we create something like this is my it, and I start trying to tell it to somebody, and they're just like, ah, that's crap, I don't care about it. And you feel like, oh, it's a bad idea. But you just have to find the right audience for it. And that is the work, is to pick the right customer.
I used to think, what if I put myself out there and nobody responds? Or worse, what if people criticize me?
Mm-hmm.
But I had to change that mindset. Silence is not rejection. It really isn't. A lot of people watch on the sidelines silently. One, to see if you're going to give up or quit,
Mm-hmm.
but two, because they are silently learning from you. It's becoming their starting point from where you are. I used to think, who am I to build a community? Who would even listen to me, much less pay for me as part of my community? Listen, I get a lot of people that want access to what I coach, what I do, and want to work with me for free.
Mm-hmm.
But free has no value. And at some point, yes, when you're first starting, you do work for free because you need that validation, you need that credibility, you need those results. And that's where you kind of start from, that free opportunity to grow with other people who then start to become part of your community by default, because you are helping them. You are helping them achieve goals, reach milestones, and create accountability for them. But then at some point, the switch flips, and you're like, okay, now what I am offering is way too valuable to continue offering for free. And just like they are building something, I am building something. And you put a dollar amount on it. Oh, how things change, my friend.
You know what? It's interesting. I was on my walk yesterday, talking to my lady friend, and we always have a conversation about the revenue generation model. Like if you build your system with revenue generation built in it. And as I'm building different system, I'm like, the thing that you can add revenue into, it needs to be a system. If not, it's very hard for you to ask some money. So if you're like, oh, this is what I'm doing, pay me, they're like, because they need a system. So when I'm looking at different models now, I'm like, a book. Yeah, book. No book is for free. It's an asset. Gotta buy it. Oh, this is my platform. Well, platform, you got automation, all that stuff. Yeah, gotta pay for it. Because why? Because it costs money to host the platform, costs money for you to be on the platform. This ain't Facebook. And you think you think Facebook is free, it's not free, really. right? Because you're paying with your attention. You're the product, by the way. If you're not paying, you are the product. You're being experimented on. Your data being collected. So then I started thinking about, Asher, you got to get back into the system building. Because with systems, you can put a revenue model inside of it. And that's a big shift. But a lot of people, when they start with entrepreneurs, they do not understand how to build systems and build a revenue generation model inside of it.
Systems are key to long-term success. Equally as important, which is the thing that most people take for granted, is consistency. People need to know and feel like they can rely on you, that you are reliable, that you show up the same way every time, that it's not just a someday or an any day thing, but it is an everyday thing. It is your brand, it is who you are, it is what you offer, it's the value you hold. When I talk about the scaling of my business and how that started, I'm going to say about 6 years ago, I realized I was achieving success, but the success wasn't what I wanted it to be at that point. And the key for me 6 years ago was consistency. Showing up even when no one else shows up. That's hard, Asher. That is hard. Have you ever been on a Zoom screen and there's one person or worse, no people?
Yes. I remember, I know we was talking about the Thursday event. You say you did the Thursday event for what? Every week for how many years? 4, 5 years, whatever. How
Yeah,
long?
5 years.
5 years, every Thursday, same time.
Yep.
That's reliability, by the way. I'm just letting you know.
Yes. That
Most
was,
people don't most people don't understand how much it takes to be present at a certain point, at a certain place every day for 5 years.
and then it becomes almost as if some people take it for granted.
Mm.
It's as if you working for them instead of the other way around. If God forbid you can't show up on a Thursday night, it's like, okay, well, I'll pull back the curtain for
Mm.
those watching and wondering why I did a weekly meeting for 5 years, every single week without fail, no matter where I was, whether I was on vacation, traveling for business, every single week on a Thursday night. And when we talk about systems and consistency and building community, this is a key. It was a lead magnet for me.
Mm.
I was able to create leads and connect with people that I wouldn't have normally had access to had I not had that weekly meeting. And that weekly meeting was very strategic. I collected data, inclusive of, do you want to be notified of future meetings and events? Because then I got to add those individuals to my email list. And then those who didn't want to be added, guess what? I still had their contact information. I still had a way of connecting with those people at a future point. And so for me, having that weekly meeting, the consistency of that, at first, I didn't, at first, it was for me to scale my business. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just needed to do something consistently that was different for me, right? You want something different, you have to do something different to get that different result. So that's what I did. I'm going to say when I realized I was pulling in over 100 people a week, most of which I did not know, I said, I cannot let this opportunity pass me by. I need to start collecting data. I need to start getting information. I need to start finding out how I can stay connected to these individuals in the future. And back then, 5 years ago, I didn't have my formal coaching program the way I have now. But hindsight being 2020, that weekly meeting was the best thing I could have done for my business. It's how I was able to build community. People found value in what I was doing because I was helping them close business. And so if I could help them close business, then that just changed the level of value I was now giving to the entrepreneurs who were looking and wanting to be a part of what I was doing.
I think it was maybe Russell Brunson or somebody was like, if you do one webinar a week or something like, or what, something along the lines of do one every week live out there, whatever, then you would probably never go broke, something like that, whatever. But he was talking about collecting leads, like you said, because people gotta find you. How do you make yourself findable? By being out there in public, and it's free to show up and says, "Hey, let me go see what Jess got going on this Thursday." And oh, Jess, really, you're pretty good at this. Hmm, wait a minute, you might be able to teach me something. Because, you know the thing, Jess, most people are very scared of public speaking and being out in public, sharing stuff, presenting, pitching, telling stories, XYZ. It's scary, especially when you're just starting off and you don't know you don't master your own business plan. You don't understand your client base that deeply. Like your avatar is somewhat fuzzy, right? You don't know who these people really are that you want to solve the problem and serve them. Like you don't know those people clearly, and you're still trying to figure it out. But you see, you know this. Oh, this person over here is talking how educating you on the process. It's good. You start finding value, and that's why you become valuable. That's when your it start
Yes.
become clear.
People, so I've scaled back in, I'm going to say, probably the past 6 to 8 months. I've scaled back and I don't host the weekly meeting anymore. I do it about twice a month now. And it's funny because the weeks that I don't do it, I consistently have people reaching out to me, whether it's through a social media direct message or if they have my phone number texting me, like asking me, "Are you hosting a meeting on Thursday night?" And I'm like, "No, sorry, not this week. The first and third Thursday of each month. Outside of that, I work exclusively with my clients at this point." And it's not because I don't want to connect with new people or not because I'm looking to create new leads, but the mindset shift leveled up. I
Hmm.
didn't need, I proved myself over the 5 years. I showed my worth. And now it's almost an exclusive opportunity to be on these meetings the first and third Thursday, knowing they're only happening twice a month. You create that urgency with the people that you're working with of she only does these meetings now the first and third Thursday. So which of those which of those weeks in the month work for you? Because that's the only time we'll have access to her. And then it levels up not only the mindset, but the exclusivity and also the price point of what
Hmm.
it is to work with me. That was something that took a long time for me to see for myself. Other people could see it, but I couldn't see it the same way. I felt like overwhelmingly all I wanted to do was serve.
Mm.
Serve, serve, serve. And if that was me being of service, it was almost selfish if I didn't do it every week. But like we said in the past, you have to at some point become selfish to become selfless. And I still have big goals, big aspirations that I want to work on for myself and for my community and for my clients. And so, in order for me to do that, I have to be selfish so that I can serve more people and have more impact.
Mm. That was well said.
Thank you.
No, that was well said. It We go back to this other piece about value, and sometimes the only reason value becomes valuable because it becomes scarce.
Mm,
And when you're abundant, when you show up abundantly, sometimes people take advantage of that. Like, oh, I don't care. But then when you start resisting, pulling back, they're like, wait a minute, can't get no more Jess. Jess is getting scarce. Value goes up.
right?
Because I mean that's all we do in on planet Earth. We chase the
Supply and
scarce
demand,
resource.
right? Supply
We,
and demand.
yeah, we chase the scarce resource. And if the resource getting scarce, it seems valuable, even though it's not really is. But because we make it scarce, we find a way to make it scarce. So then, knowing that, how do you advise other people that People want them for free because they feel like they're abundantly available. They're like, hey, you got to switch your mindset now because you understand human behavior. We're going back to human nature, human behavior. Like the animal nature of a person is predictable. The human nature of a person is unpredictable. And we understand that human beings love scarce stuff. It's psychologically built in. It's crazy. So then how do you make yourself scarce when you was available at a certain point and people know your value? Then you gotta switch it off now. That's why when these platforms they say, oh, it's free to join, free to join. Then they introduce some kind of revenue generation. But you already your behavior already locked in. You're like, well, I can't switch because I'm like, you got all my information, my memory, my whatever. But they got you hooked from free.
Because without people, the ideas, the product, the service, the program becomes invisible.
Hmm.
So it's connecting with the people that makes it valuable when you offer that free whatever. So I have a client that I'm working with, and she's offering a 30-minute free consultation. She knows how much value she can offer in those free 30 minutes, that by default, the person she is speaking to is going to want to have a follow-up meeting with her. But guess what? That follow-up meeting is no longer free. That
Mhm.
follow-up meeting has value because you got value from that free 30-minute. So it's being able to give people almost like a little taste of who you are, what you do, and how you can serve and solve their issue with the skill sets that you have. For her, she then has to take it to the next level to make it consistent and sustainable. But when you're working with the right people, because you've created trust, you've created influence, you've created respect, you've shown value, then it's not a matter of, are you going to continue working with me? The question then says, how long would you like to work with me?
Mhm.
I have a client, and when she told me this one time, I was so humbled. She was like, I cannot not see myself working with you every single week infinitely. She was like, the value that you've given me and the accountability and the work that we do just helps me work towards my goal so much easier and with more confidence. And isn't that what most people lack, is the belief in themselves that what they have to offer is valuable? And when somebody believes in you more than you can even believe in yourself, and they help you push your boundaries to see that you can do it, you were capable of doing the hard things, and they don't give you the out. They don't make it, I say, if you work with me, I'm all about like tough love. That's how I was raised by my dad, a little tough love, but it was all meant for my good. And so I will ask somebody, I've asked this to you, not on air, but like, can I share with you, my real accurate critique about what you just said or what you just did? And most people will say yes.
Mhm.
I think I've had very few people that have ever told me no. But the people that say yes, it's because they want to be better and do better. They've gotten out of their head and into their heart to see that it's not about me being perfect. It's not about them being perfect. It's the helping me reframe my thought processes, helping me reframe my mindset. Sometimes a little tweak of language, a change of a word can create significant results. Significant. But you won't know that unless you have somebody that is willing to cheer you and check you, someone who can say and pour into you with real critique. And critique is not criticism, and an overwhelming amount of love and trust and belief in you. Like, you see things totally different.
Hmm. I'm gonna wrap up with this one line. It came up because yesterday was my conversation with my therapist. We have a week. We have every 2 weeks we meet. But she said this yesterday. I'm gonna tell you the reason why she said it. I'm gonna write it down. It says, "Not everyone that has time chooses to grow." I said, that's a write it down. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
But the reason why she said that to me and was having a conversation, because yesterday I went on my walk because it was beautiful outside. And I came across this 84-year-old guy. He's from the islands, like I am. Came to the United States 4 years before I did, at the age of in his mid 50s. Worked hard. But I saw him, Jess, and we was walking the block with him. He's like, I'm not so strong anymore. He was like, back in the day when I was back in the Caribbean, I used to cut like 3 tons of sugar cane by myself. 3 tons in one day. I'm like, what? But we was talking, and he was like, I can't stay at home, man, because I'm bored. Like, how much TV can I watch? And I mentioned to him, I was like, you're 84 years old. I want to leave planet Earth on my 86th birthday. You know what he said to me, Jess? That got me thinking for the whole rest of the day. He said, someday I ask God just to take me because I have nothing to do really right now. Got me thinking all day. Then I thought about the great Dan Sullivan in his 80s as well, just crushing it, trying to do great things because his future is bigger than his past.
Mm.
But it made me think about some of us that don't have a purpose that is big to keep us moving. That is like, if you don't have a purpose, you're ready to go. And he's like, I don't have any purpose. I retired. I'm just like sitting at home, chilling with my wife, whatever. And he got me thinking about it. He's 84 years old. I'm 46 this week. And I'm like, I got another 40 years left. Can I make it massively purposeful where I'm connected with young people or other people in my mid 80s where I can still add value, where I can still have somebody to tell it to, somebody to sell it to. And I felt like the elder gentleman was like, I did my work, I'm ready to go. And I was like, I don't want to feel like that when I get to that age. So that's my wrap up thoughts. What are your wrap up thoughts?
So before I go into like my final wrap up, I'm gonna respond to something you just said about this man. We were just recently at a conference in Miami, and featured on the stage was 100-year-old gentleman.
Mhm.
Chucho was his nickname. And at 100 years old, he had so much vibrancy, energy, and life in him that it was almost nearly impossible to believe that he was 100 years old. It's not how many years you have in life, but what you wait, let's see. I had somebody gave me a quote last night. It was so true. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the years in your life, but the life in your years that matter. Which is why I say to you, who are you to choose 86? But we won't go into that one. I do believe you will have value to still offer beyond 86. But in all seriousness, my kind of closing thoughts for this conversation is the most powerful leaders don't build platforms, they build belonging. They build people. When your community feels seen, heard, and served, those become your people who become your raving fans, who become your best salespeople, the loudest advocates, and your most honest feedback and supporters for you in your business. So don't focus in on your product, your service, your program. Focus in on how you can serve and solve people, build community, add value, and success becomes inevitable.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, continue to subscribe and grow this channel with us and continue to be awesome and make it an utterly, utterly fantastic week.